Okay. We're live, Mr. Galen, just for you. I hope this suits your needs, suits your timing. Although I hear it's Waterfall Bob today instead of my good friend Agile Bob. What is wrong with it? Tell you what, can't win. Can't win. Everything just like randomly resizes it. Okay, we'll go with that. Graz457, how's life in Raleigh? Mr. Okay, don't start with me, Waterfall Bob. I don't need that. It is something happens. I don't understand what happens, but everything renders at a different resolution when I go live. And I can actually test going live without you guys seeing it, but it's like when it starts pushing to Twitch, then it resizes things. So actually I do have a Microsoft project plan, a giant Gantt chart that tells me everything I should be doing. So I'm going to be using that. Thanks, Bob. I mean, this was worth my time already. Getting this advice from Waterfall Bob. What? I thought you were on vacation. I hope you're not on vacation watching me, Bob. Maybe you are. I don't know. So, intro topic of the day is I'm stumped. And I just wanted to talk with you guys about how you handle when you're stumped. So on Mondays and Fridays, I'm working on my startup, building a product. And I often hit this point because software, where it doesn't work and you don't know why. And you double, triple check everything and it looks like it should work, but it's not. So that happens in a million places in our lives. It happens with my kids in sports. I see them. They get frustrated by something. They're doing everything right, but it just doesn't happen. It happens for everybody. So I wanted to get on the table about how you guys tackle that when you feel like you're doing everything right, but the chips aren't falling where you'd like them to. What do you do? All I know to do is, like, we often in this family quote Dory from Finding Nemo, and we just keep swimming. That's about all I know to do. But I'm hoping maybe there's some tricks. Maybe Waterfall Bob has some tricks he learned in like 1920 in grammar school that he could share with us and put in a plan. Technobabble, welcome, my friend. But yeah, I mean that's a real thing, right? Like your career. Maybe you feel like you're hitting your head on some glass ceiling and you can't figure out why. Like, why am I not able to get past a certain point? I've got a good friend that I worked with for a long time. He was a fantastic developer, and he was frustrated by the fact that he hit this ceiling. He wanted to become an architect or a manager. He didn't care what it was. He just wanted to take that next step. And he was in this very frustrating position that he was surrounded by poor leaders that never gave him the feedback that he needed to take that next level as an engineer. And it was my job to give him that that feedback. So I had to explain to him how important it was to become a leader and not just the best developer, and what that meant. It was hard because he never heard that. So it took a lot of coaching, like 6 months of coaching, and he wasn't very happy with me for 6 months. But I knew in my core that this is what this guy needed. And when he figured it out, he took off, and he sent me a text this week saying he just had to have that same talk with one of his developers. And he was thankful that I was that annoying guy that gave him the feedback that he needed. But so reach out to mentors, reach out to people that have been down similar paths. Get some help, right? Stuff like this, stuff like the podcast or Twitch stream or whatever. Thank you, Paradox. Technobabble. I tell you what, the number of times I've woken up in the middle of the night with the answer to a problem and like sprinted downstairs and jotted it down, it's a ridiculous number. Like my wife is just used to that. You know, she just came home from working out today and was like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I'm stuck." She's like, "Oh, okay." She just kind of left me alone. Man, look at Kraz 457. Jeez. Once again, crushing it. Hey, thanks for the follow, Paradox. And thanks for the nice comments. Good to have you here. Yeah, it's one of those things that it's a never ending battle. And I think getting to the point where people can get good at that, get good at handling that adversity. You know, that's something that I know my kids are sick and tired of, is me giving them a hard time about adversity and how important it is to be able to bounce back. But man, it sucks. It is just no fun. And then there's times where, to Paradox's point, and to some of the other point that folks have made, is where do you go? How do you find somebody with that similar experience? Luckily, the internet here and Stack Overflow and all those things that are out there, and you know, all these crazy people that sit in front of a camera and a microphone and talk to you and try and help. But yeah, there have been times where it's just like, gosh, what do I do? Absolutely. Absolutely, Paradox. That's it's kind of like feedback. Like I do a lot of coaching with people and try and get them to understand that feedback of any kind is a gift. And I try and do the same thing with adversity. Adversity is feedback. Adversity is, hey, what you're doing isn't working. What are you going to do with it? You can use it as fuel to grow and accelerate, or you can use it to just squash you. And that's one of those things that I see as that real definer in achieving goals. I've got a question. When you're stuck at something at work and you drive home, do you leave the radio on or do you turn it off? I've got a guy I work with that he turns it off, and that's how he processes things. And that helps him get through that. So that driving is that other thing that Kraz is talking about. I find that I'm better when I turn something on. I think because it does what Kraz is talking about, is it gets my mind processing actively something else, and allows that like passive sub process that seems to figure things out for me. It allows that to kind of chill and do its thing without me focusing on it. It's like thinking about trying to run faster. If I think I'm going to run faster, that's not going to make me run faster. But if I just kind of let go and relax and loosen up, then that enables you to go faster. So that's what I have to do. I have to find that distraction. There's times where it's video games. There's times where I'm driving home and it's Howard Stern on the radio because those guys are crazy and they just make me laugh. But it triggers things to figure themselves out. Oh, you talk to yourself, Technobabble? Man, I guess I kind of do that in my brain. Mr. Jamie Collins, you should never turn that off. Like you should just loop all 150 episodes. Yeah, Paradox, I think it gets down to that fight or flight syndrome of what you do when stress hits you. When there's a when there's a potential negative reaction, how do you handle that? Yeah, I should try talking to myself in the car. Dang. Look at this. My whole intent was to do the stream to help others, and I'm getting all this help. Thank you. Yeah, that's interesting. How to make that. What I haven't figured out, Paradox, is how to instinctively make that this is fun, right? It hits me, and then there's that little bit of frustration, and I've got to mentally turn it, mentally refocusing it. I've heard a lot of that too, Technobabble. But it's like I have to pick it up. I have to pick up that frustration and reshape it into use it for good. What I've not been able to do is have that happen automatically. That would be cool. But I'm not there yet. Luckily, I'm at the end. By the way, where did Bob go? Bob was in here before the stream even started rolling and giving me a hard time, and now he's gone. Paradox full of wisdom today. And yes, no, I have not read that book. All right. How to have a good day. Hold on. Let me add that. Let me add that to my list. Bear with me. Search on Google. You don't get the book. You get a lot of different things. You're resting, my Waterfall Bob is back in full force. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, Kraz, that's really your best bet. That is really your best bet to just stop asking and just assume I have not read it. You should see, I think I've talked about this. I bought audible.com because I was trying to fill that. So this again was one of those things, was that drive home for me. I should really maximize that because it's a solid 45 minutes. So I got all these books, and the books like this that everybody recommended on stream. I'm like, I'm going to use that 45 minutes and it's going to make me better. In the end, it just kind of wore me down. Like I needed that 45 minutes to turn it off and let that back burner, as Kraz mentioned, fire up. So as much as I wanted to make that time create value for me, I ultimately got more value by using that 45 minutes to turn off that active processing within my brain, chill for a bit, and then it reinvigorated me for the rest of the evening when I needed to write some code or do whatever I wanted to do, right? I found that when I added on that extra 45 minutes at the end of the day of really focusing and concentrating, that actually had a negative effect on me. I had to back that off. So needless to say, my Audible list is growing out of control. I just canceled it. Well, here's the good news, Bob. During our podcast recording sessions, my back burner can fire a lot because I'm not actively engaged in the discussion because I can't get a word in edgewise. Because my partner is just spewing words at an amazing rate. So yeah, I figure a lot of stuff out. Like maybe that's why I like our podcast so much. I figure stuff out. Man, and like I feel bad, Bob. I do feel bad because I know how much you want to jump in with a microphone and give me a hard time. But I don't feel bad anymore. It was like just for a minute I felt bad. But now I don't. Yeah, I tell you what, my friends, it's interesting. Everybody's different. Yeah, that what you mentioned, paradox, that's like in the last 6 months, I really learned to value and take advantage of and be intentional about turning my brain off at times, because I have learned the difference it makes for me. Because I was super aggressive and trying to like maximize every moment. You know, I talk a lot about the lifetime value of every line of code, and like I would turn that into what's the lifetime value of this minute that I'm doing, that I'm giving up to do something. What's the return I have on it? And I started viewing things like video games or not listening to audiobooks while driving as that wasn't good enough. Right? So then that just pile on top of each other. It ended up kind of like, it was like a house of cards, right? I piled too many things on there. My brain was like, that's it, I'm out. That's too much. Raz, I don't know what you're talking about. What? Work in progress limits? Maybe it finally took my own brain to like smack me and say, dude, you gotta chill. Yeah, I've got a question. I did not notice. So Paradox followed 12 minutes ago, but I didn't see a notification. There should have been a little notification pop up under my smiling face. Did that come through? Did I not see that? See if I have another stream issue. Log in and that, see if it comes. All right, I re-triggered that event. See if that shows up. There we go. All right, that's weird. Technobabble, thanks, man. Okay, it did show up that time. Maybe I just didn't see it. I was too busy talking, I didn't see it. Still wrestling. Feedback for those of you on the stream. I'm getting a little worried because this theme is called glitch, and I'm getting a little worried that the little glitch animations becomes distracting. So I need you guys as the primary viewers and consumers to tell me if it's too much and I should find a theme that's a little less noisy, or if you're cool with it. And the last thing I want to do is have you guys start watching the stream. I'll learn how to talk and say, man, that's annoying. So, cool. Let's see, a couple updates on things. This week, I was on Corey Bryan's podcast. I had a really good time talking about designing, building out a product organization. That's something I've been wrestling with a lot lately in multiple directions in my day job, and just thinking about it, because it is one of those things that I don't think is addressed well enough in the common content creator genre that we live in, be it blogs or articles or podcasts or stuff like this. You know, it's I don't think there's enough attention paid to it. Spend a lot of time talking about teams and operational things like that, but yet the very top of the funnel, the things that feed the team, I don't think there's enough time and energy spent on building an effective organization to do that. So we tackled that. Bob and I have episode 151 that should come out early next week. Our discussion topic is diversity, the diverse ways we talk about diversity. That's I think that's the one coming up. Or am I losing my mind? Yeah, that should be 151. That will happen. Okay, so I got my questions and problems out on the table. What can we do to help you guys out there? Hopefully you guys got some help from helping me. That often happens on this side of the camera as well. But I want to make sure here, at least in the second half, we tackle any challenges you may be having. I'm going to fix this daggone. There, better. Sorry. OCD kicks in every once in a while. There's this picture at work that was crooked, and you could see the people that have OCD issues as they walk by and couldn't leave it crooked, but it was like it was hung up by Velcro on the four corners, and like one corner of the Velcro lost its velcrosity, whatever the right measurement of Velcro effectiveness is. So it would kind of droop from the top left, and the number of people that would walk by and try and fix it, and then later in the day it was just on the floor, like somebody just got mad at it. It's like, okay, it's not going to stick, and I can't keep walking past it being crooked. So we're just going to take it down. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about problems people have here. Otherwise it'll be a short stream, and I don't want that. You don't want that. Kraz with a heavy hitter. Yeah, that was like, when does perseverance turn into wasted effort? That's often the defining moment when I opt out of a job. I do this mental weighing of how much energy does it take to continue to drive change. And what I found is it's got a curve that early on affecting change is easy, and you have all these great wins, and then as time moves on, wins get harder and harder. And there's a mental threshold that I know I have, that when things get past a point of no return for me, where every additional change requires so much effort, and it's not effort of me working hard, it's organizational effort, so it's not like, hey, it's hard work to do this, but it's like the organization becomes rusty, and you, as the oil, you've put oil everywhere you can, but still there's some corrosion or rust somewhere that's preventing all of the hinges or gears to move as smoothly as they should. So it's not about the effort and energy required from you, but the effort and energy for that rust to be removed. Every partner's like baseball. Yeah, so I don't know how to define it or how to quantify it, but I do get to this point with jobs and transformations where I start having that mental discussion with myself of how much oil do I need to fix this big machine. That's it. Technobabble. Right. So I guess that's it. Like, is it if the organization never decides to become self-motivated, self-directing, self-healing, then is that the thing? That the thing that pushes me out the door? That might be it. Right? Like that might be the thing. That's an interesting thought. Because it's like I can't the old you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Right? It's like you just keep dragging him to the water. Here we go. Going to the pond. We're at the pond again. We're at the pond again. Yeah, it's that's the thing I'm wrestling with, Bob, is our job is hard as a change agent, but like Teradata was a big thing for Bob and I. That's where he and I worked together. Bob saw it before I did. Bob had that X-ray vision that I hadn't developed yet. It was like, I'm out. Uh, and it took me longer to discover that. I was what I believe to be persevering, but in the end, was just ramming my head up against a wall. And I do that a lot because I have an unusually high amount of self-confidence, as Bob will tell you. But I do get to this point where it's like, I can do this. I got this. I don't care how stubborn they are. Like, I'm going to do this. But again, there does become a point where you're like, dear Lord, like I just can't take this anymore. Oh yeah, it's never easy. Like that's why I try to be careful with saying it's hard. Because again, like Bob said, our job is hard. Driving change is hard. And you're absolutely right, Kraz. I think everybody's different. I think everybody's different, and I think you'll find your threshold is different based on where you are in your life. Different things. When I was younger, my threshold was much higher. As I grew and learned, I understood the options that were out there. Even just like moving to North Carolina changed things for me a little bit because the number of options that were here are way different than there are in Ohio, right? Just technology companies. And then also, as I've aged, I have become more patient with myself and with organizations and the change. I've seen it enough to understand what good, positive, continual growth looks like, even though it's never as fast as we want. I've learned to recognize and understand that and use that as fuel for the fire of we're making progress. It's all relative, Mr. Galen. Some of us are older than others. I am older than many, but there are a few like yourself that I am not older than. You're not going to take any cheap shots about the kind of growth I've gone through? Usually take some physical growth cheap shots. Because that's happened too. But I learned from my battery partner. We've grown together. Technobabble, I was there, my friend. I was there in Ohio. I had a good job, had a good company. But I started to look around, and okay, if something goes sideways, because it was a growing company, an insurance company, those get bought and sold all the time. And I said, holy crap, what do I do? Where do I go? And I just started to evaluate my options, and I felt the best thing for the family and me was to find a location that offered me more opportunities to grow in the numerous. That's number and numerous all at the same time. In the numerous ways I wanted to grow also, and just provide for my family. I felt like it was becoming irresponsible of me to stay there. Something happened. So I flipped. Yeah, I evaluated California for a while. There was a period in my life where I just, again, as I started to realize options, I'm like, well, why can't I work for the companies that I really admire? Like, there's no reason. Like, I can go do that. So I applied to all of those companies, and I got pretty far down the path. And then I started to understand the whole economics of every location and situation. I was like, okay, here in North Carolina. We agree, Cross 457. Paradox, I just had a discussion with somebody about that same. They were thanking me for pushing them, and they were lamenting that more weren't pushing the same level that I was. And I said something very similar, that I think you'll find that those that are willing to push are those that are willing to be pushed, because you become comfortable with that learning and growth. That push, that adversity that we've been talking about today, is valued versus perceived as an attack or a slight or whatever it might be. So it's used as fuel, and the more there is of that, the more the organization grows. Yeah, like I wonder, can you value learning if you aren't naturally curious? Like, are they hand in hand? To Bob's comment, I think they might be. I think they might be. I'm gonna say yes. Mostly because Bob can't respond. That makes me happy. Okay. What else, my friends? That's simple, Mr. Galen. 8. For those of you that aren't uh aware, I know, Kraz, it just took a matter of time. Didn't. If you were to buy a fitted baseball cap, the maximum size you can buy is 8. And that's what I bought. No, you can't. He can't get a 9.5. You can only buy an 8. And I tell you what, it's annoying because that's not a common size. So not every hat is in stock in size 8. So Technobabble, I've been super happy with Raleigh. I personally wish I had made the move sooner. This decade has been very positive for myself and my family. One of the things that I also looked at as I was discussing with my wife the move, I felt, and this is specific to the area that I was in, I don't want to say it about wherever you might live. I felt responsible as a father raising them in an area where there were limited options. Whereas here, options in the technology realm and numerous other fields are pretty crazy. And the difference in local schools here, where I grew up, it was Akron U, Kent State. That's pretty much it. Then you compare that with UNC, Duke, NC State. Like those are like totally different realms. So that was one of the things that pushed us over the edge. Yeah, I tell you what, Kraz 457, when you wear size 8, those flex fits just squeeze the crap out of your head because they're not made for guys domes like this. So I don't want elastic on my head. That's not that's not a comfortable situation. Yeah. That was another thing, was that it was drivable for us and for grandparents. You know, it was sub 10 hours, which you can knock out in a day. Yeah, the number of times I've been excited about a FlexFit hat, Kraz, and then I buy it, and what happens is, like, one of those, like, those rubber, like, half domes that you fold inside out and you set it down on the table and it slowly flips and pops. Like, that's what happens. Like, slowly goes up my head as the elastic gives way. Is like, I don't want to be stretched this far. Then it just comes off my head. So that's no fun, but hopefully a good visual for you guys. Oh, well, this is full dome, but those half dome things, Bob, we have some around there. Actually, there's one stuck in a light in this house because the kids were running around shooting them at each other, and it ended up in a light somewhere, and I haven't climbed up and gotten it yet. So yeah, there's that. Oh, I know. I need all the blood supply I can get for this massive head. Totally get it. Yep. But what else? Ooh, I just found out I can give like gifts here. I don't know what the, or I just gifted a thing. 2 left, 1 left. I don't know what just happened. I pushed a button. That's what I do, Jamie. I'm here to entertain. Numerous or numberous. Yeah, numbers. That sounds like a Harry Potter spell or incantation. Numberous. Uh yeah, Raz 457. Something popped up and said I have gifts I could give. So I just started hitting the button to give gifts. Hopefully it randomly gave gifts to the right people. If not, I'm sorry. Free. Yeah. So hopefully you can do something with that. It's free. Enjoy. I've got 10 gifts. Okay. Gifts are rolling in. Send it out to viewers when ready. All right, so I can distribute gifts. We're learning something new, my friends. I'm distributing gifts now. This is actually, I got an email about this like today or yesterday saying this is a new thing. All right, Bob. We'll see you, sir. New episode coming out on Monday. So don't forget to tell people about it. We'll be there. Let's see. Making it easier on yourself. I feel like it's like an easy out, but misery loves company. Like I feel like that's such a cliche answer, but it goes back to talking to other people that are wrestling with the same challenges that you have and bouncing things off. To me, it's very similar to when we were all when we were all coders, or maybe you still are. The number of times where you were stuck on a bug and you called a friend over, she's like, I just can't figure this out. I'm gonna walk this through, and hopefully you can find the answer. And as you're walking them through the problem, before you even get to fully describing the problem, you now see what the issue is. So I do find tremendous value in that discussion with others that are living the same challenge, that have that same frustration, that they can say, yeah, Josh, I gotcha. I understand. Right. And here's what I did. One of the things I try not to do, I don't know how successful I am, but I do in my mind, I got some really good advice, which is interesting because the advice is to not give advice. I got some really good advice from a friend of mine 7 or 8 years ago. He has a successful startup, ad technology. It's the ad technology that Reddit uses. So he does pretty good for himself. So a lot of people would reach out to him about startups and what should I do and all these different things. They wanted his advice. And he said, I just stopped giving advice because that hour I spent with that person, there's no way I could get to the depth of really understanding the problem. But what I would do is I would relay my experiences in a similar arena, and hopefully that would give them an option to try rather than just giving advice. So I try to, both in this and in the podcast and just in daily life, I try to relay my experiences in hopes that that opens one door that wasn't open before for that person, and that they now have that extra little idea, extra little spark to go figure the things out. Because again, what we're doing is hard. Like I talk to teams a lot about this. Like if it was easy, you'd already be doing it. If it was easy to work as a team, to truly be agile, then everybody would be doing it. Like it wouldn't be a thing. But it is hard, but the reward is truly worth it. That's my personal view, my personal experience. Grass457. I do catch myself at times though, offering advice, and I like hit that pause button in my brain and say, stop doing that. Yeah, exactly. I think that's step one is right. Don't keep making it harder on yourself. And there's so many times where teams unknowingly are putting these barriers up in front of their success. So what I try and do is just get them to see that, like, hey, what you're doing is a problem. It's making it harder on yourself than it needs to. So again, experiences. What little I have. All right, Paradox. Get a gunslinger bundle. Hopefully you know what it is. Oh man, tell me about it, Paradox. Totally agree. Technobabble. That Paradox, that's an interesting thing, because yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. I'll get back to my point, Paradox, about having fun. Is that Bob and I talk a lot about, we don't. Okay, so we're on the same boat. We don't know what the Gunslinger bundle is. Hey, people got free stuff, so that's good. We talk about, no one calls Bob or Josh when things are peachy and things are perfect. We end up getting called in when something's bad. So he's adopted the Agile Moose, and I've thought about adopting Agile Wolf from Pulp Fiction. So the wolf in Pulp Fiction, you only call the wolf when things are bad. When you had a major issue in the back seat of a car, you only call him when it's bad. So folks like us get called in to fix problems. So recognizing that, being comfortable with that, knowing it's not going to be door, that is another evolution that I know I've had in the past 5 or 6 years, is I've learned to see and understand what the challenges are walking in more effectively than I used to. That's enabled me to become more effective and targeted with my initial approach to things. Yeah, I agree with the technobabble point. The Paradox is agreeing with. I'll just agree to agree. Rena Dork, thanks for the follow. What's the topic? Oh man. So the original topic was being stumped, and how you, this like hit me today. I was stumped in a product I'm building. I was stumped about what we were going to talk about today, so I just decided let's talk about being stumped. Because so oftentimes we all get to a situation because we're tackling difficult things, that you're stumped. And what do you do? How do you process things? So everybody that was here talked about what they do, how they solve things. I talked about how I keep my back burner on, but I put something else on the front burner. So something is wrong with me, and I haven't figured it out. But when I stop focusing on it, there's like a back burner that keeps processing it, that sometimes in the middle of the night I wake up with the answer. There we go. So finding a way to activate that. We've also talked about when things are hard, what do you do? So similar things. You're stumped. It's hard. You're not sure what to do. Who do you talk to? How do you tackle that? Yeah, you can be stumped in life. Absolutely. You know, do I move? What do I stay in Ohio? Does Technobabble move? Those are not small decisions. You got to be careful. You got to be intentional. about those things. And it's not, there's not going to be something that like drops down and gives you the answer. Technobabble, you should move to Virginia Beach, Virginia. No one's going to walk in and tell you that. But you've got to get to the point where you figure out what the best option is and maybe what plan B, C is. Yeah, it's interesting talking to engineers and being one myself. It's like a sickness, right? Like you can't, not being able to turn it off is frustrating, but also enjoyable. So it's definitely one of those things where there's times you wish you could turn it off, and there's times where not being able to turn it off is fun. But that's when you found something that you really enjoy. When not being able to turn it off is an enjoyable thing. If you find that thing, then that's, to me, that's a good thing. But you definitely, as we've talked about in the stream, you do have to find ways to shut it down for a bit and kind of take a break. Yeah, it's a fun, for me, it's a fun thing to do. But it is a terribly frustrating thing to do because every problem that's created is your own fault. Like every bug, there's no one else to blame but you. Because you wrote that bug. You didn't know you did it, but you did it. Yeah, Rena, totally agree. To me, it's game development is just a larger problem. There's more variables to be thinking of and juggling versus some other business problems. But there's some business problems out there that are pretty freaking nasty. But yeah, I did a little bit of game development a long time ago, and I really enjoyed it. But it is an interesting thing. I did it mostly because I'm a physics nerd and junkie. Just writing code to do that put a smile on my face. I just liked being able to write code that basically was physics and watching it happen. That was one of my favorite things. So now I'm working on a mobile app. So there's no physics in that. But that's okay. All right, folks. Anything else? Before I shut her down for the day. Big thank you for Rena Dork and Paradox for the follow today. Good to have you. I haven't seen you around, so every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, we're here. I generally launch with an initial topic, and then we take it wherever it may go. My goal is that anybody in chat can get the questions answered that they're wrestling with. So, yeah, it was a good discussion. Lots of things, and I was unclear what we were going to talk about, but it worked itself out. And why did it work itself out? Because you guys are awesome. So thanks a bunch. Take care, and I will see you all next week.